Hi guys, it's been a while since I've done a tutorial, and today I'm gonna do a tutorial showing you guys how to use Cocoapods with your iOS projects. So let me give you a little bit of background on Cocoapods first. Cocoapods it contains a lot of libraries that other developers have written. So in case you want to do something a little more complex in your applications, you wouldn't have to write everything from scratch because maybe other developers have already written something for you, like, so you can look for it in the libraries. So let's get started by installing CocoaPods, and then I'll show you how to use it. So in your terminal, open up your terminal, and I'm on OS XL Capitan. So I would install it by saying sudo gem install -n usr user local bin and then cocoapods. And then it's gonna ask for my password, type my password, and then it installs a CocoaPod. And then you can check that it installed by saying pod version. So I have the 0.39.0, so that's good. CocoaPod's been installed. So now I'm going to look for a CocoaPod library. So you can check in CocoaPods. So here's a link. Well, this searches your libraries from CocoaPods, but it's a little bit hard to know exactly what you want. So there's this website that's pretty cool. It's called Coco Controls. You can search for things that you would like. So for example, I'm gonna search for, let's say I want to have like a toast kind of message in my application. So I'm gonna search for pop-up, and so these are the different libraries that other people have created. So let's say this one looks pretty good. J fading info view. What I usually do is I usually click it, and some libraries are better than others, so you have to check out to see what they do. So let's say we're gonna try to use a J fading info view, which is a library in the pods. So you can check this out. Show info. Okay, so this looks like a library that actually we can read a description. You can select fade in out directions. You can customize properties. Okay, let's do this one. What I usually do is once once you find something that you like on Coco Controls, you just click on download source. It usually takes you to a GitHub page, and in the GitHub page, in the bottom, usually it gives like the some of the better libraries out there. It'll give you like a little overview, maybe like a how to installation, and maybe a little bit on how to use it. And here looks like you can use it because it has a little instructions to show you how to install their libraries using pod. So we're probably gonna use this one, and what I usually do is usually copy this first. So I'm just gonna copy this and paste it into and clone it in my terminal, just to kind of see how the library works. This is okay. So I'm gonna go to terminal, change directory to my desktop, and then I'm gonna do a git clone. All this assuming you have git install. So I'm gonna do git clone. So it's gonna clone this project, this J fading info view project, to my desktop. So now I'm gonna go to my desktop, and this one is the project I just cloned, JT fading info view. let's see. I wonder if okay. So this one is the one I just cloned, JT fading info view. So I'm gonna see it looks like it's an example, and once I double click on that, it opens up a JT fading info view project that they've had, like a demo. So let's run the demo and see what it looks like. So it built, and here's a simulator. Here's a properties demo, kind of like what we saw in this page, the tap to play, but we've actually downloaded the source and we're looking at it on our simulator. So appear from bottom, disappear to right, show info view. So it looks like this info view, the thing they call info view, comes from the bottom and disappears to the right. So maybe we can mess with this too. Display duration, let's say 10 seconds. Let's see how that works. Okay, so it displays for 10 seconds and it disappears. Okay. All right, so let's take a look a little bit at the source code, and then we can kind of see how we can use this in our app. So we don't want to take too long to do this because we're just looking at the demo and we still have to create our own project. So it looks like that was in the property view controller. Let's look at their zip file. Yeah, this one's in their property view. So the show info view button, I'm guessing would be somewhere in here. Let's see. Okay. Show info view. Looks like show info view. That this action calls the function appear. And appear, what it does is it creates the frame for that info view, and the info view is a JT fading info view, which is we can hold command and click into it. So JT fading info view is a subclass of UI button with some properties that the developer, let's give him or her some credit here, Junichi Surukawa, has exposed for us. So we can set is shadow enable, is animation enable, and display duration. So you can set these properties because the developer has exposed it for us to set in the .h file. And notice this is in Objective-C, and then I'll be writing my project in Swift. So we can kind of see how that works also. So, okay, now that we've kind of looked at it, let's go back to the property view controller. So they basically set a frame. They have a string called label loaded. We can probably mess with this to see label loaded. Let's say we changed it with 3 dots. Looks like they got the appearing duration from here, display duration here. So we can change this so we can kind of see how it works when it's hard coded. So the thing with using pods is involves a little bit of reading other developers' code, which might take a little bit of time to get used to. Let's see. Oops. Not appear direction control. I'm just trying to mess with this to see appearing duration field dot text. So okay, so instead of that, I'm just gonna hard code a value. Let's say it's gonna appearing duration. Let's read it. Appearing duration represents the time the view is appeared by. So this is how fast the view is gonna appear. So let's say it's gonna appear. It's gonna take 9 seconds to appear. All right, we're hard coding that in. We've built it. Let's give it a look. Properties demo. So now this appearing duration shouldn't matter because we've replaced it by 9 and we've changed the text to label loaded. So it does take, well, I'm gonna say it takes 9 seconds. I wasn't counting. So it took that time, and it's gonna display for 3 seconds, and then it's gonna disappear in 1.5, and the text has changed. Okay, so with this, I think we have enough information on like how we can use this info view, which is the JT fading info view. This is what we kind of want to use. So for example, if we want to display like a text, like kind of a toast message that Android devices can do, but iOS doesn't really have that. They have like a, what do you call it, a UI alert view, but I think they use a alert controller now for iOS 8 and above. Or like if it's 7 or below, iOS 7 or below, they use UI alert view, which doesn't really dismiss itself. It will pop up something, and then you have to click like OK or cancel or whatever to dismiss the alert. So with this library, it looks like you can kind of do that. So let's see how we should go about doing this. Okay, so let's create a new folder. I just created from my terminal. Okay, so let's go back to our desktop, and then let's create mkdir make directory. Let's call it a pod tutorial, and then okay, there's a lot of stuff on there, but here's the where's the pod tutorial? Oh, there it is, pod tutorial. So we're gonna cd into pod tutorial, and then look inside. There's nothing there yet, so we're gonna create a new Xcode project. So open up Xcode, file, new project. So we're gonna create an application, single view application. So this may be already existing application for you, or you can create a new one. So I'm just gonna call this one pod tutorial, and then next, and we're gonna save it into our desktop pod tutorial folder that I've just created. And just click create. Alright, so notice right now, let me see, I wonder if this is recording. This screen may not be recorded, but let me bring this pod tutorial folder into like right about here. Okay, so in our pod tutorial folder, we can look inside. Right now we have a pod tutorial Xcode project. So to initialize pod, or to start using pod in your project for the first time, you would just go to your folder. So that's what we've done. Hold on, let me start again. Alright, so now we go back to our desktop, and now we change directory to the folder. And since we've created a project inside, also called pod tutorial, might be a little bit confusing. We have to go into the directory one more time. And now when we list the projects inside, we have the Xcode project and the pod tutorial folder. again. So it doesn't have any pod file yet. To initialize the pod, you would just say pod init. And then now that if you do an ls, now if you look in the folder, now it creates a pod file for you. So you can open up the pod file here or from terminal. I like to open it a little from terminal from Xcode, or you can open this with Xcode or Sublime Text or something. But I open it from here because sometimes when you open it with the text editor, it kind of does a smart quote for you, and the pod file doesn't really like that. So in the terminal, I'm just gonna say open -a open with Xcode, and I'm gonna open the pod file. So now it opens that pod file. Let's uncomment this line if you're using Swift. So I'm using Swift, so I'm gonna uncomment the used frameworks. And so in the Safari, this page that we have already gives us a little bit of instructions. You can use this library by adding the following command to your pod file. So we can just copy this command, and where's our pod file? Let's see. Okay, here's our pod file. We can just paste the command in here. So it says use JT fading info view. Alright, so I think I'll uncomment this line to define a global platform to your project. Okay, so I've uncommented that. I'm gonna save the pod file. And from your terminal, after you've saved the pod file, run pod install. What that's gonna do is it's gonna go through your pod file and it's gonna add the dependencies. So you've added you've wanted to add this one, JT fading info view. So the pod file, it goes through that list and then it says, okay, it's gonna add it. And after it's adding, it will say, please close any current Xcode sessions that are using pod tutorial, Xcode Works, and use pod tutorial Xcode Workspace from now on. So what that means is if you look in here, now it creates a pod tutorial Xcode Workspace for you. So now we're not going to open our app with the pod tutorial Xcode project anymore, but we're always going to open it using pod tutorial Workspace. So we're going to close that one and we're going to open up pod tutorial Workspace. So when we do that, you can look inside the pods. Now it creates this pod target for you also, and then inside the pods folder you have the JT fading info view, which is the library that we were just looking at. But now this fading info view, all this code is already inside your project and you didn't have to write it, and you can use it pretty easily. So Xcode's made it a little bit convenient. So in our app delegate, it just goes to your storyboard, and then your storyboard is linked up to your view controller. So this is your storyboard, your view controller, and the class is view controller. So we don't have to do much to that. So from there, we're gonna try to use the JT fading info view. So I'm just gonna copy this because we have to import it. We're just gonna say import and then paste JT fading info view. Looks like one error, but sometimes Xcode does that. So if you want to see if it succeeds or not, just try to build it. So build. So it built, all right, and then so we're gonna create a variable called info view, which is a JT fading info view. And in our view did load, we're gonna have a function called setupInfoView, and function called setupInfoView, copy paste. Let's take a look back at this previous info view and see how they've set it up. So in the appear, looks like they created a frame, they created a label, and they initialized the info view with the frame and label. And they've added some properties. Here, let me just copy the appear function over, and then maybe we can just look at it from there. Oops, let's see. Where am I? Okay. I'm just gonna comment it out. Oops, there it is. Okay, so that's the appear in Objective-C. So I'm gonna have to try to do something similar in Swift. So I'm just gonna say let's set the frame first. Let frame equal CGRect. Let's say X is, I don't know, 100, 100, 100, 100. Alright, and then let label equals, let's say my label is loaded. Alright, let's say info view equals JT fading info view. And we initialize with frame and label, just like how they did it here. But this is Swift, so the syntax is a little bit different. So we use frame and we use label. Alright, this frame is this frame, and this label is this label. Alright, so we'll do info view dot is animation enable true, info view dot is shadow enable true. Alright, let's say info view dot appearing duration, let's make appearing duration 5. Info view dot disappearing duration, let's make that I don't know, it's good number 2. Info view dot display duration, let's make that 10 seconds. Okay, it's a little bit long, but info view dot animation movement, let's do the same, 40, and then so select appear value. Let's see what that is. Select appear value. Select appear value is, so we look into it, looks like they use that segmented control, so they can do the fade from above, fade from below, but for our purpose, we're just gonna hard code it. So, where's my other Xcode? This one. Okay. So, info view, let's see what the appear value shows to be. So I'm gonna have to move this a little. So info view dot fade in direction and fade out direction. Alright. Info view dot fade in direction equals, whoops, sorry about that. Fade in direction, let's say JT fade in direction from below, because we're just hard coding for the purpose to show you that how to use the Cocoapods. Alright. JT fade in direction from below. Okay, so it's gonna fade from below. Info view dot fade out direction, JT fade out direction to left. Okay, so now we can delete this because we don't need this anymore. Oh, we have to add subview. So cell.view.add subview, and we're gonna add info view to our subview. Alright, so let's run it and see if it behaves like how we expect it to. So now here's my label is loaded. Okay, so it's fading from below and appears for 10 seconds, and then it should fade out to the left. Okay, alright, so we can mess with these numbers and directions, but I think the main point of this tutorial is just to show you that we install Cocoapods using terminal by using by this command sudo gem install -n usr local bin Cocoapods, and then after that you find a pod project that you want to use. You, like, for example, we found JT fading info view, and then we use it. So I mean, there's always ways to like make this thing appear again. I mean, we can get more into depth, or we can just run it again just to show you that we can use it. So now again, it appears on the bottom. Takes 5 seconds to appear, and it displays for 10 seconds, and it will disappear in 2 seconds to the left. So that's an example of a library. And if we want to add another library, for example, because the purpose of this tutorial is to show you how to use pod, so I'm probably going to show you how to add one more, but maybe not really use it. Let's see. Okay, let's search for something else. I don't know. You can search for something. Let's see, menu. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter which one we use. So, like, for example, let's see. So we search for progress bar. All right. So let's say we found something that we like. So let's say we like this one. Doesn't really matter which one. Ooh, 5 stars by one person. Okay. So again, we download source. Okay, so there's some documentation on this one. And then let's see if they have pod. So they have some pod instructions on here, which is great. So we can copy this. What's it called? Gauge kit, gauge kit something. Okay, so in Xcode you can open up your pod file, just click it, and you can go ahead and paste the pod gauge kit on there. So in your terminal, like, notice right now in the pod you have one pod. So in your terminal you go back to the same directory that you were in. Right now I'm in this desktop pod tutorial. So what we're gonna end up doing is running pod install again. So what it's gonna do is it's gonna install the gauge kit and to the latest version. Like, if you have a specific version, you can specify it also. But now if you look at the pod, now you have the JT fading info view, and you have the gauge kit accessible to you to use, just like that. And if you want to uninstall a pod from your project, you just delete the pod from your pod file, and then save it, and then run pod install again. So when you run pod install this time, it's going to show you that, okay, it's analyzing dependencies and it's removing the gauge kit because you have removed it from here. So that's basically pod. And there's like thousands and thousands of libraries written by very good and great developers. So yeah, you have those accessible to you. So hopefully this tutorial's been good. And okay, well, thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll do more tutorials more often, but work's been kind of busy lately. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.